Okay. There we go. I'm James Brierton in Charlotte, and this is a tornado warning issued by the National Weather Service for portions of Horry County, South Carolina, and portions of New Brunswick County in North Carolina. This is along the Carolina shores or just outside the North Myrtle Beach area. It was issued a short time ago by the National Weather Service and will continue until 12:15. So we have about 20 minutes left on this tornado warning, the first of the day, excluding one that happened about midnight last night, as we're continuing to look at scattered showers and the slight risk of severe weather across the Carolinas today. And again, so for tomorrow, we have up on the screen right now radar for you, and we can show you the area of interest. What you're looking at on the right-hand side of your screen is the winds. That's the reds and the greens on the radar. And on the left-hand side, you have the traditional radar that you're used to looking at for rain. And so what I want to call your attention to on the right-hand side of the radar right now is this area right here is actually where the radar is located. So we are incredibly close to the radar, so close we will be getting some other perspectives here shortly. But I think what the Weather Service was looking at when they issued this tornado warning was something that was right up on in here that we might actually be blinded to currently because we're so close. But if I take the radar back in time, there are a couple things that kind of jump out to us here. We're looking on the radar at about 11:45 this morning, about the time that the tornado warning came out. And the first thing that jumps out to me is right here where the red and the green come together. That indicates rotation inside the thunderstorm. But you'll notice kind of the size of this tornado warning polygon is kind of longer than it is tall, because the other thing that's happening here is we have potential water spouts that are coming off the water. You can see another area of red and green pretty close together just outside Sunset Beach. And if I were to take this back in time even further, you can see that there was a potential of something kind of broadly rotating off of Sunset Beach as we get even further back in time, right about in here. It's pretty broad, but I think what the Weather Service is looking at is for a couple areas of potential rotation that might be coming onshore associated with some of these embedded thunderstorms. So if I kind of put this into motion, you can kind of see the way that plays out over time as this storm system almost is kind of Genesis rotating right on through here as a part of the broader setup across the region. What I'm going to do is show you on screen here the actual text bulletin from the National Weather Service. Make sure we all have the latest information about the areas that are currently threatened by this potential tornado. We don't have a confirmation that anything's on the ground right now. The source of this threat is radar indicated, so you should take your precautions until we hear otherwise. But again, this tornado warning issued by the National Weather Service is for southwestern Brunswick County in southeastern North Carolina and also east central Horry County in northeastern South Carolina. So we're right there on the border. This goes until 12:15 as the National Weather Service and I continue to track a severe thunderstorm capable of producing a tornado that at the time was located near the entrance to the Little River and moving north at 10 miles an hour. The thunderstorm will be near Little River at about 11:50, so that's now moved past that area. But as we come up in the noon hour, the threats extend to Seaside, Ocean Island Beach and Calabash around 12:05, Sunset Beach and Carolina Shores at 12:10, and then by 12:15, Iredale, Grizzleton, and Russtown. So if you're in these areas, what you need to do right now is you need to seek a shelter inside a sturdy building. That is going to be maybe a brick building, maybe something wood, definitely nothing that may be a temporary structure or a beach structure such as a lifeguard stand or anything like that. You're going to want to try to retreat into a hotel or a restaurant farther onshore if that's where you're located. If you're further inland, again, hopefully you have access to a sturdy structure. And once you're inside that structure, you want to get to the lowest level possible, whether that be the first floor, ideally a basement, but understandably that might not be available. So the first floor will do. And then you want to get to the most centrally located room inside that building, put as many walls between you and the outside world as possible, and try to stay away from windows and doors. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to broaden out, and I'm actually going to choose a different radar site. We are so close to the radar site that we're almost blinding ourselves, but trying to get another perspective on this is going to be a little bit difficult because as I switch over to some of the neighboring radar sites, this one out of Morehead City, this purple on the screen indicates to me that I'm exceeding the range of that radar. So let's see what other perspectives may be available to us. Not a whole lot. We're kind of a good distance away, but as you're watching me here, that's what I'm looking for. The Columbia radar is just barely within range, but the the resolution is not ideal. And so this is really a don't wait to see it on radar, don't wait to see it out your window kind of scenario. If you are inside this polygon, go ahead and seek shelter now, and we'll give you the all clear when we get it shortly. Not surprisingly, the Charleston Radar is a little too far away too, and just for good keeping, I'll try the Raleigh Radar. All of them kind of really exceeding their range by the time they get down to the coastal area here. So it looks like we're going to stick with the at-home radar that the National Weather Service Wilmington folks operate, and we'll just kind of walk you through. We'll keep this up on the screen, but I'm also looking at messages from the National Weather Service because we are essentially blinded here at this particular radar location. We are going to watch. I think this area here is that area we talked about a little bit earlier that was that potential water spout, right, that kind of moved up on shore. So while there was an area of interest around here, this other area of interest, I think, explains the prolonged nature of the tornado warning cell and the reason it's drawn the way it is, where it's wider rather than tall, because I think we're watching more than one area. That first area, I can't really see what's become of it as it got really close to the radar site here. But I think right now the Weather Service is keeping this active, again, for the Carolina Shores and the Sunset Beach area, because as we were reading that bulletin, you'll note that it started off right near Little River and then was moving kind of this way through Carolina Shores and Sunset Beach when we look at exactly what the Weather Service was dictating in their bulletin. So again, now that we're coming up just past the noon hour seaside, this threat is going to be near you, and moving on to Ocean Isle Beach and Calabash by 12:05, Sunset Beach and Carolina Shores by 12:10. I think, if anything, those time stamps now have actually proven to be a little behind the 8 ball, as this potential threat may be somewhere in here. Again, it is not showing up to me clear as day as we might have liked to have seen, where we were kind of seeing it offshore a little bit more, where we had the reds and the greens really close together on that velocity radar on the right-hand side. But if you watch, it's kind of clearer here, then starts to get a little muddied, and in that very last radar frame that's available to us, I'll go ahead and stop it. I think maybe there's just a little something on in here. But again, this is very difficult to try to show based on the radar coverage that's available to us right now, and we're just going to advise the same thing we always advise, which is to err on the side of caution. So whether you're in this area, whether you're vacationing to this area, or know someone in this area, give them a call. This is, again, the state line is right here. So the North Myrtle Beach area is right on in here. For context, we have Carolina Shores and Sunset Beach that are inside this polygon, and this is to the west of Oak Island and the Wilmington area. So if you know somebody that's in this area, give them a call. Just make sure that they're aware, especially if they might be traveling and this isn't an area that they frequent. They may not have severe weather notifications enabled on their mobile apps or whatnot for this location if they are traveling. Checking our availability of cameras right now in this area, we do have one that is in Little River, and we're going to go ahead and pop this up on the screen for you here momentarily, so you can kind of see what the weather conditions are like right now. Unfortunately, the camera is not really in a position that it's going to show us any severe weather, but does kind of give us an idea of what's on the ground right now, and a reminder of kind of how damp things are out there across the region, as so many of us are experiencing. So we're going to go ahead here and get this South Carolina Department of Transportation camera on the screen for you. You can see it right there. And so this is in that Little River area. This is US 17 near Bayshore Drive on the South Carolina side of the border. And you can see, of course, the very wet conditions that so many of us are experiencing across the region are present and on display here. This is the nearest camera we have to our tornado warning polygon, and hopefully if any of these folks are driving northbound, they are being notified that there is a situation currently ongoing, just as they make their way into the North Carolina side of things. So Little River technically still inside this tornado warning polygon, but the threat has kind of moved beyond there. Our camera was right up on in here. And the area that we're watching is just north of Sunset Beach now. Looking at velocity data, again, it is very difficult to kind of pick up and see And so what I'm going to do here is go backwards in time. I'm kind of look at correlation coefficient now in the bottom right-hand side of your screen, which would show if a potential tornado was maybe picking anything up, any lofting of any debris, such as maybe wood planks or tree branches or things like that nature. But again, we are so incredibly close to the radar site that each and every polygon is almost so small. Every little pixel here is almost so small that trying to pick anything out is very difficult. But what we are looking for is kind of what we saw around 11:45 at about the time that this tornado warning was issued. This is the radar image from 11:38. And if you look on the right-hand side of your screen, you can see how we have this red and this green kind of right close together at this boundary. And we had a couple areas like that coming on shore that we were trying to keep an eye on. And if you just kind of watch the trajectory of that area, you can see kind of right up in here at about 11:44, this is almost the exact moment the National Weather Service issued that tornado warning. We did have right over the inlet, just offshore of Sunset Beach, over the Barrier Island, a really tight area where the red and the green were very vibrant, very close together. And then over time, as we are now jumped back to real time, this area has kind of moved up this way, and it's a little bit harder to see, but I think if it was still present, it's potentially right on in here. We still have a little bit of darker red, a little bit of darker green, and some lightning strikes. Lightning strikes an indication to us that there's potentially a convective system, a healthy little thunderstorm couplet here going on. I will again say what we're not seeing because of how close we are to the radar is you'd almost expect to see on the left-hand side of the screen some sort of indication with the way the rain is wrapped or the rain is formed to indicate the way those flows of wind are moving and rotating. There's no couplet. There's a couple problems in this area that not only is it the proximity to the radar, but we've also learned from previous experience covering previous storms that the radar is very blinded through here. There are, as I understand it, a lot of pine trees that have kind of come up and grown near the radar site. Years after the radar were built, these trees got taller and taller to the point where they're blocking the image, right? So if you look at the left-hand side of your screen, we've got rain pretty clearly indicated through the yellows and the oranges through this portion of the radar, right? To the north, to the west, to the east. But you'll notice that everything coming out towards the beach is hampered. It's kind of like static on an old analog television set, if you remember. We kind of have bits and pieces of information coming in through here, and that is literally the radar trying to shoot through pine trees. The National Weather Service will be relocating this radar, which will take it offline for some time while they relocate it to a new and better site. But until then, we're working with what we've got, which is why I think the National Weather Service is probably erring on the side of caution and keeping this tornado warning active at least for another 5 minutes for this portion of Brunswick County, which a couple years ago did see a tornado very similar to this one in this location. And we have, again, been reminded about the radar difficulties. Okay, so as we watch this kind of move on shore over the last few minutes or so, the best radar indication that something might be going on, again, is right on in here. So if you join me by looking at the right-hand side of your screen, we've got a little bit of dark red, a little bit of dark green coming together, and then again, those lightning strikes, another indication that that might be our location of interest. So as we push on in, you can see that this potential rotation right now might be near 179 and kind of paralleling let's see, 904. So we have, is that 904? Yes, it is. So we got 904 running north-south. We got 179 running east and west. And the potential rotation is kind of right on through here. You can see we have some surface streets. We have communities on both sides of 179, and that's where our potential tornado is right now. The National Weather Service doesn't have any indication that there's anything on the ground, and we are using radar right now to continue to track this until we get confirmation that the situation may be safely resolved. Now I'm getting word from the National Weather Service that they've gone ahead and canceled this tornado warning. So they've decided that the threat has passed. However, I'm going to stay with you just for another minute because given our radar coverage, given what we know of this area, I mean, I felt more blinded 5 minutes ago than I currently do. While what I've just circled on the screen to me, is not overwhelming in evidence that something may still be going on or something may be cycling. Just kind of given, again, this is a stronger indication to me than we had 5 or 10 minutes ago. So we're just going to kind of hold tight here for a moment and see what happens to this over the next few radar scans as this moves up towards US 17. Radar spins around. It's a dish that rotates 360 degrees. So it will spin all the way around, kind of like you're taking a panorama photo with your phone, and then it will process that and spit it back out. So as that spins, we have to wait for the spin to complete, the image to process, and then it comes on down to us. That's why radar is not really a live product. It tends to lag behind reality by about a minute or so. So I would say this area of rotation less captured on radar at 1210, just near 179, is probably now moving past 179, coming up to US 17 in the next minute or two. So by the time we see the next picture, it could be somewhere up on in here. Again, the tornado warning has officially been canceled by the National Weather Service, but I'm just kind of curious to see what the next radar image or two looks like, given what we have to work with. While we wait, I'll say hello to Kathleen, who's watching with us on Facebook. It's been pouring very loud thunder and lightning for hours where she is in Murrells Inlet. Absolutely, Kathleen, and the genesis of this system right now is very close to that area. We have lots of scattered kind of tropical-like downpours moving across both North Carolina and South Carolina. Where I am in Charlotte, we woke up to heavy rain, and we currently have a little bit of a break, but we'll be watching for more heavy rain where I am as we head on through the day. We also do have a flood risk that is associated with the weather this weekend, and so you can see one of potentially more to come flash flood warnings currently in effect here for Georgetown and Horry County in South Carolina, associated with the showers and the heavy thunderstorms, where between 4 and 8 inches of rain have fallen already and flash flooding is occurring. So this does include some pretty popular areas where you are, Kathleen, including Murrells Inlet, but also Surfside Beach, Garden City, and you can see some more listed there. Flash flooding of small creeks and streams, urban areas, highways, streets, and underpasses, as well as porch drainage areas are already occurring, and we know that Horry County is no stranger to flooding, unfortunately. We'll be watching throughout the weekend for flooding threats across both North Carolina and South Carolina. It's something that really everyone is in play for across the Carolinas, not just the coasts, not just the mountains. And so our Carolina Weather Net, streaming for free on YouTube, will be monitoring radar and the latest from the National Weather Service, so that if we do get any flash flood warnings, you can find them scrolling there. Ryan is watching from Ocean Island Beach, and thanks so much for joining us. We'll continue to track from the National Weather Service if we get any further information about what at one point was a concern for a thunderstorm capable of producing a tornado. I appreciate you guys joining us on Facebook, and we also have folks who are with us this morning on YouTube, so hello to them as well. That Carolina Weather Net I mentioned does stream for free on our YouTube channel. Any place you watch YouTube, whether that be your phone, your computer, or your smart device, and it will be on the air in between these what we call cut-ins or special reports for tornado warnings. So when I do leave you here momentarily to make sure we're clear of this tornado threat, if you're looking to stay up to date with the latest, just kind of around the clock, maybe keep it on in the background if you're looking for a way just to be informed of weather happening across North Carolina and South Carolina today, that will be available to you for free wherever it is you stream YouTube. Let's check back in, see if we have any more indication. Again, the tornado warning itself has been canceled. Still waiting for at least one more radar picture, because I do kind of still see where we've got some winds very broadly trying to rotate here, but you'll notice the lightning strikes are starting to fade away, which is an indication in this software that they're aging out. We don't have any bright, vibrant lightning strikes, which would indicate that we have lightning within the last few minutes. This now probably goes back 20 minutes or so, and again, just because of how close we are to the radar site, I'm curious to see what becomes kind of this area right on in here, because we do still have an area where the winds are moving towards and away the radar relatively close together. Again, not overwhelming, but I'm working with what we've got, and I'm watching on the left-hand side of the screen. You see how this kind of just like slopes up here a little bit? That to me would try to indicate what I would traditionally see as maybe winds trying to rotate in, and you can kind of see when I point on the left and the right, not only is there a hook on the rain, but there is also a little bit of a notch on the right-hand side with the winds. Again, not overwhelming. If this was many other locations across the Carolinas, I don't think I'd be upstreaming right now and maybe just be watching it on radar, kind of standing by. But given the fact that we had that tornado warning previously, given the fact that we're operating kind of in a blind spot because of the pine trees at this radar location, and given the fact that we are so close to the radar that the radar is almost blinded this close, I'm going to just stay with you a couple more minutes. I mean, this is the radar right on in here. You can actually see the area we're looking at is 7 miles away from the radar site. And so the radar beam is 0.3 thousandths of feet above the radars, right? So it's several hundred feet off the ground, which we like. We like low radar beams, but it's almost so low that we're just getting a lot of static and interference because it hasn't actually had time to kind of get to flight, if you will. That radar beam comes out of the radar and travels very slowly upwards because the ground really, because the earth is curved, slopes away from it. So typically across the Carolinas, the way our radar network is set up, we deal with the opposite problem where we get too far away. So like if I was trying to use this radar right now to track something up even near UNC Pembroke, by the time I get past there, I'm at 5,000-6,000 feet up in the atmosphere, typically too tall to see any tornado activity. But I'm having a little bit of the opposite problem right now where I'm so close, I'm having a hard time seeing what's on the ground. So we're going to hang out a few more minutes here. Again, the National Weather Service does not have any active warnings in place. But since we're already here, I want to make sure that we are safe and secure and confident in what we are seeing and what we are feeling as we continue to track what is kind of a prolonged weekend of not only tropical downpours, but isolated severe threats, just kind of like this one. And I can actually talk you through it a little bit. We just got this in here from the National Weather Service. It's what we call a mesoscale discussion, and it's a little inside baseball, but I'm going to share it with you all so you can kind of have a sense of what we're looking at. This is kind of a message from the National Weather Service to meteorologists to kind of just fill us in on what it is that they're seeing. It's not necessarily something that your local TV meteorologist may bring on the air, but you can see they've kind of circled, if you will, this area from Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, up along the coast of North Carolina, through that Wilmington area for the possibility of brief and weak tornado or two possible through the mid-afternoon hours. So again, it's brief, it's weak, and it's only potentially one or two, but this is caused by the convergence of southerly winds with the easterly surface winds, right? So we have winds kind of going this way, but then we also have winds trying to go this way, and that's exactly what you need for a tornado. You need those winds that are rotating. Now, their probability of issuing a tornado watch or a severe thunderstorm watch is only at 5%. Right? So the warning means that something is happening or so imminent or so likely that they issue a tornado, letting us know that we immediately need to seek shelter, as they did with the tornado warning earlier this hour. The tornado watch or a severe thunderstorm watch would go for hours ahead of time to say, hey, be on the lookout, be weather aware for the possibility we could get some storms later. What this background text is telling us is that they only have a 5% chance in their eyes of even issuing a watch. So that's how low the threat is. It's not zero, but it's very low. And what their analysis is telling us, as you can see on your screen here, is that a brief or weak tornado or two is possible through the afternoon hours along this section of the Carolina coast as thunderstorms continue to develop and move onshore. So we could be dealing with waterspouts and then storms move onshore. A watch is not expected given the limited nature of the threat. But again, I'm here talking to you because the threat is not zero. A pair of weak circulations have already been tracked near the KLTX radar site in southeastern North Carolina over the past 20 or 30 minutes. The KLTX radar site is the one that we have been looking at with you here from the Carolina Weather Group. These circulations, notice that's plural, are associated with largely unorganized marine convection that has begun to move onshore. Translation, thunderstorms are developing over the water and they're moving towards land. However, this easterly low-level onshore flow of winds under modest southerly winds between 2 and 3 kilometers is providing sufficient low-level support for weak storm rotation with stronger updrafts. You need updrafts to produce thunderstorms and potential tornadoes. So this environment that is being sampled and looked at it multiple levels, right? So you might look at it at the ground, 100 feet, 200 feet, 300 feet, 400 feet, likely extends northward along the Carolina coast beyond what we've been looking at here, but again, towards that Wilmington area. The latest visible satellite trends, which we have not shown you on air, but we can show you momentarily, show additional cloud development offshore, slowly moving towards the coast. So we are likely to see throughout the day the atmosphere this afternoon heating up, supporting the potential that we could see one or two thunderstorms strong enough to produce a tornado. And that is exactly the situation that we have found ourselves in. But to summarize, overall, limited wind magnitudes will support a rather low-end threat for waterspouts and tornadoes along the coast. That's a little bit of inside baseball. That's a little bit of what we look at to get an understanding of what is being monitored. But you can kind of see, if I put this radar into motion, right, we had one or two areas as we came on the air about 20, 30 minutes ago that we were watching. And that is what prompted the National Weather Service at that time to issue that tornado warning. Outlined on blue, in blue on your screen right now, from the Georgetown Myrtle Beach area, all along the section of Carolina coast that we've been focusing on, from Wilmington northward through Jacksonville all the way out to Morehead City, is that mesoscale discussion. That's what I was just reading to you from the National Weather Service. So there's a 5% chance that we could get a tornado watch or a severe thunderstorm watch through here. Very low, right? Very low. But we are still watching that a couple thunderstorms could develop over the waters and, with just the right mixture, start to spin up a little bit. Potentially produce a waterspout, potentially produce a tornado. That's what the blue is. This orange is a special marine warning. If you're thinking about taking a boat out, Georgetown, Myrtle Beach, Oak Island, Carolina Beach area, the special marine warning is a notice to mariners, to boaters, that there are thunderstorms out over the waters that, again, could produce waterspouts. It's kind of the water equivalent of a severe thunderstorm warning, if you will. It's windy conditions, waterspouts that need to be closely monitored, right? Because, again, you can kind of see on radar, as best as the radar does or does not work in this area, we do have a couple of areas out here that are continuing to move on. That's a horrible arrow. Onshore. And that's what we're going to keep a close eye on. Zooming out and going single panel, I want to show you why we've been focusing a lot on the coast, very close to this low-level pressure that is generating the genesis of so much of what we were watching across the Carolinas today. As I switch other radar sites, if you're watching us from the Piedmont, from the foothills, from the mountains, you will see you also have heavy rain scattered in nature moving across the area. And we're going to be watching for the potential that we could get one or two thunderstorms today or tomorrow across either North Carolina or South Carolina. But keep an eye on this area right on in here, right? So I'm in Charlotte. I'm looking out my window going, okay, it's cloudy, it's raining this morning. Hey, but look on radar, it's nice and clear to my south. This is moving north, right? Not exactly. Take another look what's happening right on in here. The rain is generating in this space. And so while we are not forecasting a washout anywhere across the Piedmont, Greensboro, Raleigh, foothills, we are still watching that things could generate and move further north. So we'll be watching several bouts of rain as we go on through the rest of the weekend. And before I leave you here, let me show you what our latest Futurecast will look like. For some reason, it took me to the Midwest, but here we are. Okay, so you can kind of see we have those stronger storms on the Futurecast across the Carolina coast as we are looking at this Saturday afternoon, and we have more, I'll say widespread, but not washout, rain moving up the I-77 corridor in North Carolina. As we take the Futurecast into motion over the next couple hours and make your way towards late afternoon and evening hours, notice some of those heavier embedded thunderstorms move from the South Carolina coast further inland into North Carolina along the I-95 corridor, but again, also the coast. They're not completely gone from South Carolina. They're still scattered in nature, and even one or two of them may be in Lancaster or Chester County, just to the south and east of Charlotte. And that is kind of what will happen, is the heavier rain will push north. Then as we head into the late afternoon hours and the evening hours, we'll get these isolated thunderstorms. Isolated thunderstorms actually carry more of a threat for severe weather, for damaging winds, tornadoes, and the like, because they have all of the room to dance that they want. There's no one else around them. So we'll have to watch one or two cells that could be strong enough to produce further tornado warnings or severe thunderstorm warnings. And you can see that continues through Sunday. And what we have on Sunday is this very scattered nature. Here's Sunday again, where these storms are kind of popping up and converging across the area. You will notice that we might be able to get that Panthers game in, no problem, home opener in Charlotte tomorrow, because the storms are so scattered. But if you do get one storm, it's going to be very noticeable. Taking you back now to the rest of this Saturday afternoon, we do have widespread rain in some areas. That the widespread rain will be less of a threat for thunderstorms or tornadoes. I'm talking right now about the foothills and the mountains and the triad, but we'll need to watch that flood threat, because while the storms may not have enough room to dance to be strong enough to be rotating, they are going to put a strain on the water system and the watersheds. And so we'll watch that across this region, but also we already have one flash flood warning that has been issued again for Georgetown area in Horry County, including Merle's Inlet, where Kathleen is watching on Facebook, because of the way the rain has kind of been prolonged across that area of the coast. So again, it's not a huge severe weather weekend. It's not a complete washout either, but we do have just enough energy and just enough tropical-like moisture and just enough convergence of winds that we will keep an eye on it for you here. And if you're new to the Carolina Weather Group, please like and subscribe to our Facebook page or Twitter or YouTube, wherever it is you're watching from. When we get tornado warnings or we get life-threatening weather, we try to come on the air to all of our platforms: Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, the like. If you want to just nerd out with us throughout the course of the afternoon and look at what we're looking at through a live dashboard, well, that's available to you on the Carolina Weather Group YouTube channel. It streams for free. It's called the Carolina Weather Net. It's very similar to what you're looking at on the screen right now. Features real-time bulletins from the National Weather Service, live radar, sky cams, current temperatures, forecast, and more. If you've been watching this special coverage on YouTube, you will automatically join the Carolina Weather Net in progress momentarily. And if you're with us on Facebook, Twitter, or other platforms, thanks so much for joining us. Be sure to like and subscribe where you are to be notified of upcoming live severe weather updates throughout the weekend. But for now, in Charlotte, North Carolina, I'm James Brierton. This has been special coverage from the Carolina Weather Group.